Hey YouTube, Matt here. I thought I would share with you guys some in-process footage of my latest cover commission piece going on. And it's a three-part piece this time: front cover, back cover, and of course the spine. What you're looking at right here is the front cover. I've got the line work already. It's been penciled and it's been inked with the first layer. I did this over the span of 2 days so far. You can see very simple and clean title, custom font. And the most important thing about these covers, as I mentioned prior, is getting the measurements completely accurate, especially the trim margin, because when a book is sent to the printer, all the text has to be within the space of the inner region. If it's outside the trim margin, it could get cropped. So when you do these projects, the measurements are absolutely imperative. And you can see, so front cover, one layer of ink. I'm still working on finishing this part off. You'll see that in this video. And just to share some more, you see the back cover here. It's just the pencil work. Again, completely custom. The client wanted to see these specific type of boots. So this was a project, you could say, that was micromanaged with design. Or actually the elements. The design is on me, but the elements were specified by my client. So muddy boots, and this is actually a play on prior covers I've done for this client. The same kind of layout for the back cover, just different boot. There was a woman's leg. She was wearing stilettos, different kind of skirt. Here she's wearing boots, obviously for horseback riding, or just being outdoors in this case. And again, following the trim margin parameters. And you can see here on the back, I usually do the spine on the back of the back cover. You can see it's been inked. And again, I don't get too crazy with perfection when I ink, because after I scan it in, I'll do a slight cleanup just to, embolden some of the texture. Again, I did this by hand, handwritten, inked around it. This part will be colored a little bit, and then the files will be ready to send to my client. So yeah, let's just jump back to this front cover. And right here, I'm using a bold brush. And you can see, if you look carefully, I've taken a 0.3 and I've gone around. And actually, I used a 0.1 to go over this pencil work, but I used the 0.3 to go around the outside so I can fill in the black ink, just to create that boundary so that when I do go into this line work again, I won't have to worry about it extending into the background. It's really just, I'm just creating this barrier so that I know where to work within. There's only going to be a little bit of color on this, in this image here, this arm, this female arm here, and these colored bands. That's really the only color on this front image, front cover image here. But this process is, it's pretty imperative for this particular type of piece. And I've got an assortment of pens I'm using. You can see, so far I've actually used, I used the 1.0 to go around the front cover text. 0.1 and a 0.3 are, like, I use these almost exclusively, doing almost any fine detail line work over pencil. So just to note, if you guys are ever doing anything with ink, I'd recommend exploring those particular pen types, because anything larger just gets a little bit too muddy, and you're not going to get as fine amount of detail with those thicknesses of fine liners. So you'll want to keep it small. It's really a matter of personal preference too. I could be using a nib to do this, obviously, but since I've got the fine liner set, I feel that it's just as adequate. A little less messy, a little quicker. It's, it's really whatever you feel is adequate for the job. I do have nibs and I have ink. I think I should get back to exploring that, but probably with my own personal work, just to make sure that I don't make any mistakes. And that's another thing with this particular cover. I have yet to make any errors of any kind. So I haven't had to resort to any white ink or even scratching away the ink on this Bristol sheet. This is actually a thicker Bristol paper I'm using for this project, which I've become quite partial to because the paper doesn't, you can erase graphite really well on this. I'll show you guys the paper type I used in case you're interested. I saved the cover of the pad of paper here. It's Canson XL Mixed Media Rough, 114 pound, 9x12. Absolutely awesome paper to use. So do take note if you're interested in, again, just doing anything where you need to ink or watercolor or, you know, any layered kind of work. This paper holds ink, obviously graphite, and again, watercolor very, very well. So I've done quite a number of pencil sketches on this paper of late. Yeah. It's, you know, it's just a matter of trying things out. You know, when I was going to school, quite a few years back regarding art, I was buying at least one of every pen that I saw over a long, you know, we're talking like over 3-4 years, just to see how they worked. You know, well, back then pens weren't too expensive, so a couple of bucks, maybe $3 at most for a pen. And I could get a feel for pens I liked, how long they'd last. A lot of these were fine liners, but I did purchase quite a number of different fountain pens, and it's been interesting to see the evolution of, you know, my own artistic tools over the years, because the companies have kept the same pens in their, you know, in their lineup, and so they don't change. It's just a matter of finding out the ones that work best for you. So I do like that. It's, you know, they've kept consistent with their pens, and as I grow with my artistic ability, I kind of lean towards what I find works best. And in this case, these are interesting pens. I got to say, actually, these Le Pen drawing / inking technical drawing pens, I got these at Walmart. Of all places. I couldn't believe it. Again, that was just me experimenting with pens, going to different, you know, stores, seeing what was available. These are both affordable and honestly one of the best pen types I've ever used. And again, you can find these at Walmart. I'm not being sponsored by Walmart in any capacity, but like, these are just awesome pens to use. I love the way even the brush just retains its shape. This pack has 8 different sizes. I think it's about $20 Canadian. So is that like maybe 15 in America? If you guys have this pen, but these are from, well, it says America, made in Japan. And that's why, obviously. If it's made in Japan or it's made in Germany, you can be 100% sure it's going to be a decent pen. It's going to be a spectacular pen, actually, in this case. I've done quite a number of projects using this specific type of pen. It's not to say that brands like Staedtler or Canson, what do we got here? Like a Staedtler pen. These are pretty good. Not as good as this pen, though. I gotta say, it just doesn't hold up the same. Not Canson, I meant Copic. Copic pens are good. They've really gone up in price, and I honestly, again, like, I don't find their quality to be any better than this particular pen. And these pens just last. I'll get at least, on a full pack of pens, I can probably get at least 2 to 3 solid projects out of this size at 9.5 or 9x12. If I work on the larger paper, like the Comic Bristol boards, the 11x17, I'll usually use at least maybe a half to 3/4 of all the ink in a full 8-pack set. So, you know, you're going to go through these pens a lot when you're doing these projects, but they works so well. I'm quite a fan of the fine liners, the technical drawing pens. But it's good to try everything. So I recommend just trying everything, seeing what you prefer best, and whatever helps you complete your projects as well as you'd like to see them. That's really what it comes down to. I had the idea for this arm here. It's going to kind of fade out into the flesh tone. It's kind of an olive skin tone. It's going to fade out into the black background. So this is all going to be black. I've marked it off. Right now I'm just, because when I scan it in, I want to make sure that this image is in its right positioning so I can crop it, move it aside, and then fill in digitally all this with black when all is said and done. So it's kind of, I'm always thinking ahead, always planning ahead for the final stage of the project's process. And these are things you just pick up as you're going along with these kinds of jobs. Yeah. I've got this blank sheet here just to protect the fresh ink and my hand from smudging the cover as well. So something else that works well, just a quick trick you can apply to ink work so you don't damage your project. Keep it clean. Always keep it clean. And like I said, once I scan it in, I will have kind of a second opportunity to clean this up even further, if need be. When you're inking, it's obviously great to do it as cleanly as possible the first time around. But in the back of my mind, I know that I have one last chance to tighten things up even further. Obviously, it takes more time, and time can be costly. So the faster you can produce it and produce it well without any mistakes, it's only going to be to your benefit. And if this was a project for me, I'd spend as long as I choose to on it. I really kind of do that though with my client work as well. I don't cut any corners. It's complete when it's complete. I'm kind of a perfectionist, that's a bit of an understatement. Perfectionism is something I have to deal with. I just know how well things can look, and I kind of have that as a standard. So it does, can make the process a little bit grueling, but, there's no compromise for quality work, in my personal opinion. So we just carry on and do it as best we can. I'll probably, go right to the edge here. And if I'm outside this border, it doesn't matter because it's all going to be black ink when all is said and done. I'm also thinking about my client, their name, of course. They've got a blurb, a little bit, not a blurb, but just a sentence to hook the reader in on the front cover. So I'm contemplating where the best spot for that would be, possibly in this area here. Maybe I section a piece off here, just have it black behind it. Yeah. So you can see there's you get quite a bit of leeway with this inking phase. In some cases, a lot of the comic artists, obviously, they scan in the ink work and it's basically ready. If they do it traditionally, they do it so that it's prepared for the printer. There might be some corrections post-scan, but, you know, again, the time is money factor, like, really plays into doing the best possible job you can once and not having to correct anything. And I do keep that in mind when I'm doing this process. All right, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this relatively quick video showcasing some of the process work involved in completing a novel cover project for a client. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I will catch you for the next video. Happy drawing. Cheers.